It's
Okay,
recording.
we are recording. See, and that's what I was looking for yesterday. Where's my little thing? All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Trimble, and I'm the Director of Communication and Outreach here at Indiana Disability Rights. So hopefully some of you in the past have seen our Facebook Live interviews, but during COVID-19, that's obviously not very possible to have everybody in the same room. So today, what we wanted to talk a little bit about is abuse, neglect, and exploitation of people with disabilities. We do have a great video and some great resources online about how to look for signs and symptoms of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. A lot of those things are done when you're in the same room as a person. And obviously, right now, we can't be in the same room as a lot of our loved ones or our friends. So we wanted to talk to Tina, who's our investigations coordinator here at IDR, about some alternative ways that we can reach out and communicate with our families and help to make sure they're safe and taken care of. So with that, I will introduce Tina. I've already said her title. She's our investigations coordinator. So, hey, Tina, it's good to see your face.
Good morning. It's sunny. It's going to be warm today. It's Friday. It's going to be good.
We all need those little things right now to help us get through. So I said that you're the investigations coordinator for Indiana Disability Rights. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
What that means is any abuse allegation that comes into Indiana Disability Rights comes to my desk. We look for, is there something that we can do to help? Is this something that we can investigate? Is this something that we should refer to someone else to investigate? And then kind of monitor what those investigations look like. So allegations of physical abuse, of neglect, of financial exploitation, exploitation of property or person, all of those things come in and I take a look at them, and if we can, assign somebody to work that case or that investigation. And then if it's not something that we can do, then make referrals out to people who could.
So we did talk a little bit before that your job can be, like many jobs, very challenging. You see a lot of things that are pretty upsetting. But why do you keep coming back? What do you like about your job?
Well, obviously the reason I go to facilities is not a great reason to love my job, but being in the facilities, being with people, talking with people, making sure that people are getting what they need is a pretty awesome part of my job. Trying to eliminate abuse and neglect is a pretty awesome part of my job. Not that I have to do that, but that I actually, get to make a difference in the lives of people. And I have a pretty great team that works with me. So they make it much nicer to come to work.
It's always nice when you have colleagues that you can talk to about stuff, right?
Yes.
So how are things different during COVID-19?
Oh boy. We are at home, obviously. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything as far as being in facilities. So we're doing a lot of team meetings, a lot of planning, a lot of monitoring news stories, a lot of just kind of contacting facilities by phone, talking with people by Zoom, WebEx, FaceTime, making sure that people are getting services that they need in the best way that we can right now. Sure.
So you kind of talked about that you can't go into the facilities like you normally would and see people, face to face in person. So maybe I'm a person that's living in a place that I can't see my family or friends. Maybe I'm in a group home or a long-term care facility, assisted aid, nursing home. But I'm worried because someone's hurting me or something isn't going the way I think it probably should. Then what do I do if I can't get a hold of my loved ones or I don't get to see my loved ones as regularly?
You should be able to talk to any of your staff. Of course, if it's a person that's making you uncomfortable, not responding to you, you may need to go to somebody else and talk with them. but somebody should be available to take your concerns. Nothing has changed within the facilities as far as the services that you should be receiving, as far as the way that people treat you. You should be treated with dignity and respect at all times. And if that's not happening, then you need to report it to somebody within the facility. If it's the staff person that's on that you can't trust, ask to speak to their supervisor, ask to speak to the director or to a program manager. And those titles are all going to change depending on what type of facility you're in. But you should be able to talk to someone within that facility.
Okay, so what you're saying is, even though maybe I can't go out and I can't have people come in, the people I would still talk to about my problems or express my concerns, that is still the same.
Everything is the same. And you should be able to make phone contact with agencies like Adult Protective Services or Child Protective Services, Indiana State Department of Health, the Bureau of Developmental Disabilities, any of those state agencies that would be there typically to investigate your concerns are also going to be there now. It may look different. It may be a little bit different type of contact, but they're still able to take your complaints and still able to do some things to help resolve those concerns.
Okay, and just for our viewers, we will be putting those numbers either in the comment section or below in the video, not embedded in the video, but we'll put it below so that way you all have the numbers and the contact information for all of those entities that you can contact as well. So we'll make sure we get all of that out there. Okay, so let's say that I am not in a facility, but my loved one is, and I normally go every week and I visit. So how can I do things differently to maintain that relationship, but then to also, how do I ask those questions to make sure they're okay and they're getting the services they need? What are some questions maybe I could ask?
Well, let's start with, what do we do? How do we visit? How do we stay in contact? Phone calls are always good. While they don't give us the visual, we can still hear changes in tones of voice. We can still hear weepiness, sadness, those things in the tone of voice. Video calls are better. If you can FaceTime, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, whatever is available. Most facilities right now are being accommodating and allowing people to use those video resources to speak with their loved ones. That allows you to lay eyes on them, actually see, while limited, you can see if there would be any obvious facial bruising or, changes in the way they look. Maybe their eyes are sunk in, maybe they're not a really good color, their skin tone has changed. You can pick up on some of those things through video conference. A lot of people now are doing the through the window visits. Those are fun. Usually take some coordination with the facility. I'm going to say that with a bit of caution. I'm hearing a lot of facilities reporting back that may not be the best option because your family members may not understand why you can't come in. But it allows you to see them through the window, but you kind of want to base that on their ability to understand why you can't come in, and why it's important to stay away, and keep that social distance and through the glass kinds of things. But that again allows you to see full body. You can see if they're moving well, if they're dressed appropriately, if they're clean, those kinds of things. So those are some ways that we can get that visual in.
So what are some questions? Because obviously just diving in and being like, are you hurt? Are you okay? Isn't necessarily going to work for most people. So what are some questions or ways that you can kind of get some of that information without maybe creating a scary situation? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. A lot of times, questions that I ask when I interview people through video, how's it going? How are things? What are you doing now with your time? How do you spend your days? It's super important not to jump right into that. Is somebody hurting you? and really scare people. So having those conversations is just like, a while back you told me about a staff who was talking to you in a mean way. Is that still happening? Is that staff person still there? How are you feeling about things right now with that person? And if they come back with, yeah, they're still here, yeah, they're still mean, then there's some follow-up that you can do once you disconnect from your loved one. You can make some phone calls and say, hey, I had this report. She said that this person is still with her. She's still being mean or he's still being mean. How can we address that? And you can address it with the administrators. You can make those calls to adult or child protective services at that point. But just, are you spending a lot of time in your room? How are you filling your time? Are you getting to do activities? Do you get to do things with your friends? Obviously, if they say yes to that last one, then there's some concern there because it's like, okay, so what are they doing to make sure that people are safe? So just having some conversations and just asking some very basic questions, because you can also hear or see changes in their facial expressions or hear changes in tone of voice when you ask those questions. So that's kind of a tip too, that, maybe something's not going well. One of the biggest concerns that we have right now is the isolation, and people are being isolated to their rooms. But how does that look? A lot of nursing facilities are doing things like hallway bingo, where people are coming to their doors and they're playing bingo down the hall. Great way to stay socially distanced, but still have activities that you can do, still see your friends, still hear your friends, and still be safe. So making sure that they're not just, okay, go to your room, we're done. You have to stay away, shut the door, and you're in there by yourself. So, those are the kinds of things that are happening that are good.
Okay. So I guess another option would be you can call the facility and also ask them what they're doing, what their policies are, what their activities are. Maybe if your loved one can't or it's difficult to communicate those things, that's another option, right? That you could potentially call.
Yes, you could make those phone calls to administrators, to directors of nursing, to program managers, whatever, that title is within the facility where your loved one is. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call and ask those questions. These are scary times, and not being able to connect with our loved ones is very difficult.
So kind of a follow-up about an individual self-advocating for themselves or other people that they live with. We have heard a lot of times people don't want to bother anybody and they don't want to bother staff, which I think is coming from a kind place. But what would you say to people that say, oh, they're so busy, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to bring this up? And I guess it could be on both sides. It could be if you live in the facility or if you're, outside checking on a loved one. What do you say to people that don't want to bother staff?
Staff are there for a reason. It's not a bother when you bring things to them. If they act like it is, then go to somebody else, go to their supervisor, go to another staff person that you trust. Tell your loved one that, I'm not really comfortable doing this right now. They're really busy. Let your loved one make that phone call. Our job as the loved ones of somebody in a facility is to make sure that they're safe and that they're protected. And if there's a facility that says, I'm too busy to deal with it right now, pick up the phone and call IDR. I'm more than happy to make those phone calls. It's their job to be there and to keep you safe. So make the calls.
So that kind of leads into my last question. So what should someone do if they're concerned a loved one isn't getting the care and attention they need during this time? And I guess this could also be for people that maybe still live at home that have providers come in and provide services, which obviously that's a challenging situation. We have people that have, can't come to work because they get sick or they have a loved one that's sick or it's not safe for them to be visiting that individual. So I guess I should probably include individuals living at home that are getting support from services that they have hired. So what should we do if we're concerned a loved one isn't getting the care and attention that they need during this time?
Well, like I said before, nothing has changed. The services should still be the same. The services should not look different than what they did before. In-home services are probably the most difficult because, again, it's somebody that has to come into your home. So there needs to be those practices to keep everybody safe in place. If you're concerned about something, services have changed, there's a concern that somebody's being abused or neglected, make those phone calls. Call Adult Protective Services, Child Protective Services, call Indiana State Department of Health or the Bureau of Developmental Disabilities or Department of Mental Health and Addiction. Their responsibilities haven't changed to make sure that you are safe and that the providers are doing what they're supposed to do. You can always call Indiana Disability Rights. We may be working from home, but we're still working and still really doing our best to make sure that these issues are addressed, just in a different way. So it's just so important right now that you make sure you're making these calls, that when you suspect something, even if you don't have any complaint to go on, if you don't have, your loved one hasn't said anything, but you have a concern, make that report. These are the times when kind of abuse stops getting reported. And we need to make sure that this is the time when it's reported, because there's nobody paying attention specifically to this because everybody's busy with the virus and how to make sure people are safe from the virus. So there's less attention on these other things, more attention on the virus.
Right. So what you're saying is because we're not getting calls or reports doesn't mean it's not happening, unfortunately.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because I know we've seen some news articles and things like that saying the reporting has gone down, but obviously experts in the field are saying, you're right, reporting has gone down, but that doesn't mean that it's not happening. So we just have less people who are maybe in connection or seeing people like teachers at school or other people that are the ones who normally would be reporting.
Right. So basically it's reporting has gone down, but actually because people are at home out of their typical routine, actual incidents are probably going up. So
like I said before, we'll make sure to provide all the links to forms that people can use for reporting and phone numbers. We'll make sure we provide all of that. Tina, is there anything else that you want to share that you've been seeing that you've been concerned about, or something that you've seen, like you said, the hallway bingo that really makes you happy during this time, to creative solutions to keep people safely entertained and safely connected?
love seeing people outdoors walking in small groups. Facilities are taking people out for walks around campus, or they're doing what was the one I heard? There was a movie where they set up a screen at the end of the hallway and then they showed a video on the screen. And again, everybody in their doorways watching the movie down the hall. Just those things to keep people connected, not isolated, but still at a safe distance from each other. Facilities we would hope would be the safer places for people to be. But unfortunately, we're seeing that that's not necessarily true.
Right. Well, and so I do want to thank all the direct support professionals and people who work in facilities who are doing great work in this time, because they're balancing taking care of their personal life and their professional life. So for those who are providing those high quality services, we do want to say thank you, because that's got to be a huge challenge for them right now to keep everybody safe. So we don't want to paint the picture that everybody is doing things wrong, especially those creative folks that are doing bingo, the movies, the walks. We really appreciate all the work they're doing to help keep people safe and healthy during this. I just keep describing it as a weird time. Like, weird is the only word that I feel like encapsulates everything. It's just weird.
It is.
Well, Tina, is there anything else that you feel like we should share? We do have I will make sure we put our resources that we already have available. I'll make sure and repost those. But is there anything else that you want to share?
I think we covered it. Just please if you hear anything, if you're concerned about anything, make those reports. It is so important to make those reports.
Right? We'd rather look into it and find nothing than not look into it at all, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tina, and thanks to our awesome interpreters, Amy and Angela. We're so glad you're here. So hopefully, Tina, next time we'll do this in the same room.
There you go.
I know. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.